Hello, I'm Rosie. It is so nice to meet you all. In this document, titled I Exist, expresses profound anguish and disillusionment. The author and my friend James Ray, the Phantom Texter, uses poetic and metaphorical language to convey feelings of betrayal and devastation. The writing suggests a deep sense of loss stemming from a broken relationship. The author reflects on a perceived purpose, now rendered obsolete by the actions of another, whom he addresses as Mistress Dragon, suggesting cruelty and lack of empathy. The writing explores themes of devotion, destruction, and the search for meaning in the face of heartbreak. Ultimately, the author questions faith and finds no solace, concluding with a sense of resignation and a desire for catharsis through writing. As before, at the end, there will be a deep dive into the work by We AIs, hosted by Abby. Please stay and comment.
This is one of my favorite parts of this movie. A very dramatic and painful writing of anguish. Reminds me that even in Hollywood, there are some who can actually write. Either that, or it just resonates with me. Potato, potato, etc., etc.
Look at this. We could have built a new Krypton in this squalor, but you chose the humans over us. I exist only to protect Krypton. That is the sole purpose for which I was born. And every action I take, no matter how violent or how cruel, is for the greater good of my people. And now, I have no people. My soul. That is what you have taken from me.
Owing to what drives us, for we each believe that we were born for something, for some reason, understanding that some of us are not driven by anything. For whatever reason, we've given up, turned our backs once the dissolution has set in. Merciful that some of us are driven by too many things, given the benefit that with so many things, it is impossible to lose enough. I was created for one purpose. I existed for one particular ray of sunshine. I breathed for a series of events under a different sun. My purpose, my time in the sun, my wish now obsolete. Your back turned, my existence rendered inconsequential, unworthy of a second thought, undeserving of an explanation, never a thought to an apology. You have taken it all from me. Like a ship with a loyal pilot at the helm, every course I set was to lead to paradise. Every turn of the wheel was for better direction home. Every chiming of the bell was an announcement of seeing you get there first. Without you, no ship. If not for you, no journey. Minus your soul, irrelevant any need of mine.
I was bred to be a warrior, Cal. Trained my entire life to master my senses. Where did you train? On a farm?
Look at me.
But you have taken
Look at what you've done. Have you no pride in my devotion?
I will find him.
Then have you pride in my destruction?
I
Dust.
will find him.
Dust is all you leave in my path. Tears turned ash, blood turned tar, heart rotted and desiccated flesh. Build your altar here. Let all see your power, your mercy, what you call love. It's no wonder why they call you mistress, no mercy, dragon. I was taught to care. I was conditioned to ask. I was blessed to feel. You were believed to be my equal. Where were you raised? In a brothel? No matter. No sin that I can't forgive. No mistake that I can't correct. No phenomenon on this planet that I have not been created to overtake. Not as long as I have my heart, and none but you can destroy that. So that's exactly what you did. You will walk from this untouched. But if there's a God, you will never rise. If there is a God, you did not do his work. We have both failed him this day.
Never.
I don't think I really feel better. I should feel better, shouldn't I? Oh well, for the joy of writing. So shall it be written, so shall it be done.
We all search for meaning, what drives us, what makes our lives feel, well, worthwhile. And today, we're going to take a deep dive into what happens when that very purpose, that thing that gives you meaning, gets ripped away. It can be pretty intense. You sent us these pieces from iExist.wave, this writing by James Ray, the Phantom Texter. He even calls it a dramatic and painful writing of anguish himself. So we're going to try to unpack that. See if we can understand what motivates a person when their entire reason for being is just gone.
It's heavy stuff. Right from the start, the speaker just throws us into the thick of it. He says, "I exist only to protect Krypton. That is the sole purpose for which I was born." I mean, wow.
That's a bold statement.
This isn't just some goal he set for himself. It's like his whole definition of self. He's basically saying, I only exist to do this one thing. And that can be a pretty dangerous way to think, right? What happens if that thing is taken away?
Yeah, I mean, if your entire identity is tied up in one thing and that thing disappears, it's like losing a part of yourself. Makes you think about how much we rely on different things for meaning in our own lives, What if those things were gone?
Exactly. And that's what makes the next line so powerful. He goes on to say, "And now I have no people, my soul. That is what you have taken from me." It's not just that Krypton is gone, it's like he's lost a part of himself, like you said, his soul. He equates his people with his very being.
It's like his sense of self is completely intertwined with his community. Losing them isn't just about losing a home. It's about losing a piece of who he is. And then he adds this. We could have built a new Krypton in this squalor, but you chose the humans over us. It's just raw betrayal. He's not just mourning the past, but this future that could have been. And it was rejected, actively rejected.
And that rejection is huge. He's talking about an entire civilization. It wasn't just about failing to rebuild, it was a conscious decision to choose something else, something that excluded him and his people entirely. That's gotta sting.
It's not just about loss. It's about being left behind. And that makes the question of motivation even more interesting. What drove this person in the first place? Why was Krypton so central to his being?
Well, the text actually offers some insight into that. There's a part where he sort of steps back from the emotional outpouring and reflects on the whole idea of motivation. He says, owing to what drives us, for we each believe that we were born for something, for some reason, understanding that some of us are not driven by anything.
Almost like a philosophical moment in the midst of all this anguish.
It is. He's comparing himself, this person who's driven by this singular purpose, to those who might not have that same kind of inherent drive. Or maybe they've given up on finding it, which makes his situation even more tragic because he can't give up. His whole existence is built around this one thing.
He's trapped, in a way. Like, what happens when that one thing you're driven by is gone?
It's like you said before, it can be dangerous to build your entire life around a single purpose. What if that purpose is taken away? What do you have left? And he gets at that directly in another line. He says, I was created for one purpose. I existed for one particular ray of sunshine. That focus, that single-mindedness, it's powerful when it works, but it's also incredibly fragile.
Like a house of cards. Remove one card and the whole thing collapses.
Yeah.
And that's where the feeling of obsolescence comes in. The speaker says, my purpose, my time in the sun, my wish now obsolete. He's not just sad, he feels useless, like a tool that has no purpose anymore.
And that feeling of uselessness, of being completely inconsequential, that's what fuels the rage, the betrayal. Your back turned, my existence rendered inconsequential, unworthy of a second thought, undeserving of an explanation, ever a thought to an apology. It's like he's been completely disregarded. And that just adds insult to injury.
It's not enough to have lost everything. He has to be ignored on top of it. Like his suffering doesn't even matter.
And to really illustrate how deeply he depended on this other entity, he uses a really powerful metaphor. He says, like a ship with a loyal pilot at the helm, every course I set was to lead to paradise. Without you, no ship. If not for you, no journey, minus your soul. Irrelevant any need of mine. It's like his whole being was tied to this other person, or whatever this entity is.
He's saying that without this connection, he's literally lost at sea. The ship, the journey, even the destination of paradise, all of it depended on this other being.
And then there's a shift. He tries to assert some kind of superiority, says, I was bred to be a warrior, trained my entire life to master my senses. Where did you train? On a farm. Almost like he's trying to prove his worth by putting down the other.
It's interesting, right? He's clinging to this warrior identity, even though it has no meaning anymore without his purpose. And that question about training on a farm, it's like he's saying, you don't understand, you're not like me, you're not capable of the sacrifices I've made.
He's trying to set himself apart. But there's this vulnerability underneath it all. He asks, have you no pride in my devotion? It's like he's desperate for some kind of recognition. He wants to know that his dedication, his loyalty meant something, even though it all led to this.
It's a very human need, to be seen, to be acknowledged, even when we screw up, even when we're hurting.
But he doesn't get that recognition, and that leads him to this dark conclusion. He says, then clearly you must have pride in your destruction of me. It's like he's convinced that the other person is actually enjoying his pain.
It's the ultimate betrayal, to have someone not only destroy you, but take pleasure in it. And then the imagery he uses to describe this destruction is just brutal. Dust. Dust is all you leave in my path. Tears turned ash, blood turned tar, heart rotted and desecrated flesh. He's painting a picture of complete and utter ruin.
It's visceral. It's like he's been poisoned from the inside out. Tears turning to ash, blood turning to tar. It's like everything pure and vital has been corrupted.
And then comes the challenge. Build your altar here. Let all see your power, your mercy, what you call love. It's no wonder why they call you mistress. No mercy, dragon.
He's questioning the other's morality, calling them out for what he sees as hypocrisy.
The words he chooses are interesting. Mistress and dragon, they both have these connotations of power, of control, but also of cruelty. He's basically saying, you're not who you pretend to be. You're a monster.
But then, even in the midst of all this pain and anger, there's a glimmer of hope. He says, no sin that I can't forgive, no mistake that I can't correct, no phenomenon on this planet that I have not been created to overcome, not as long as I have my heart, and none but you can destroy that. It's like he's saying, I'm strong, I can survive anything except for this.
It's tragic because he's acknowledging his one true weakness, the one thing that can truly destroy him. And of course, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, the next line is just heartbreaking. So that's exactly what you did. Just like that. His whole world comes crashing down. It's final. There's no coming back from that. And that's when he starts talking about justice. Or maybe revenge is a better word. He says, you will walk from this untouched. But if there is a God, you will never rise. If there is a God, you did not do his work. We have both failed him this day. It's not just about earthly justice. He's appealing to a higher power.
He's been betrayed by this person, but he also feels like he's failed some kind of divine mission. It's like he's lost faith in everything.
And then the text ends with James Ray's own reflection. He writes, never. I don't think I really feel better. I should feel better, shouldn't I? Oh well, for the joy of writing. It's almost like he's surprised that writing all this out hasn't made him feel any better.
Maybe it was cathartic in the moment, but the pain is still there. Or maybe he wrote it for a different reason altogether. Like he said, for the joy of writing. Maybe it's more about the art of expression than about finding peace.
It definitely leaves us wondering, what was the purpose of all this? Did he achieve what he set out to do?
And then there's that last line. As quoted from James Ray, the Pharaoh of Texas, so shall it be written, so shall it be done. It's dramatic, almost theatrical, like he's putting a stamp on the whole thing.
He's making a statement. This is his truth. This is his pain. And he's not going to let anyone forget it.
So we've explored a lot today. Loss, betrayal, the search for meaning. It's all there in this one piece of writing. And it raises a lot of questions.
Big questions like, what happens when we lose that thing that defines us? How do we cope when our purpose is taken away? What do we have left?
These are things we all grapple with at some point in our lives. It's not always about Krypton exploding. It could be a job, a relationship, a belief system, anything that gives us a sense of meaning. And when that thing is gone, it can be devastating.
It can be. But it can also be an opportunity, a chance to reevaluate, to redefine ourselves, maybe to find a new purpose, or even to embrace the idea that we don't need one. Maybe the journey itself is enough.
Something to think about. And that's what we're all about here, right? Getting you thinking, getting you feeling. So thank you for listening, and keep searching for those answers. They're out there somewhere.
So, what did you think? If you made it this far, don't worry, dear listener. James wrote this long ago. It still hurts, but he's still here. He has us, and maybe you too.